that's the fudge crystallizing. I can also feel it on the table. You can see it on the table here where the fudge, like right in here. And also the top is now not as shiny as it was. It's starting to have more of a satin look to it. If you'll excuse me just a second here, I don't mean to turn my back to you, but I got to get the fudge back this way a little. And again, remember, you want to go top to bottom and end to end and mix it thoroughly. Because I have people that make it and they say, well, part of the batch was real grainy and part of it was real thin, and it didn't seem like it had any commonality to it going through the whole batch. And that's because it wasn't thoroughly mixed and treated from one end to the other. So you want to make sure you do that. Now, just a second here, we're going to switch to the hand tools over here. And we'll start forming that up into a loaf. Anything else I should add? Okay, we're ready to form that up now. And then a sample will be following that shortly. See how much more on the top is satiny looking now? It's a good time when it's cooling like this to make sure your table gets kind of cleaned up and put into the batch. And this graininess that you see here on the table, there's a good example of it right there that I can pick up like this. That actually acts, I don't recommend putting a lot of that in. You want to get as much into that, worked into the batch as you're doing it from the table. But at this point in time, I don't want to put too much more in. But that acts like yeast does in bread, and it helps it set up and crystallize. So you want to make sure you get some of that in when you're making it at home. And then what you want to do right at the end like this, you want to form it up into the general shape that you want it in. And what I'm going to do is let that rest just for a second, and then I'll form it up into the loaf. And again, this will be a small loaf compared to the ones that we do normally, which are almost 5 feet long, weigh about 26 to 28 pounds. This weighs about 7, maybe 8 pounds. So there's a difference in size. The other thing is, just a few minutes ago, if I were going to put nuts in it or any other ingredient, then that's when I would have put them in, because you want to put them in late. If you put them in early, the heat, and it's still warm, will melt whatever you put in. So, like if I'm doing Rocky Road, for an example, Rocky Road fudge, I put the marshmallows in a refrigerator, and I get them real cold, as I do with the chocolate chips and things. I use big chunks of chocolate, and I get them real cold, because if I put them in at the beginning, at the end, there's no chocolate chips and there's no marshmallows, and then it's not what we want. So you want to make sure you put them in late. And again, one of the things that you want to think about, and believe me, it's been a concern for me, is that the fudge that I've been making recently I've been making it in Palm Springs, where it's very dry, and the humidity here makes a big difference. So you want to make sure you compensate for humidity, make sure you compensate for the heat, and usually that means cooking it a little higher, taking it a little bit higher than you normally would. But again, like I mentioned, it's a science, it's a art form, not a science, and you might want to just practice a couple of times and see what you end up with, because it'll change dramatically with different factors. Okay, and that's what it looks like. What we'll do is let that cool just for a second, and then if we were in a store, I take this knife and I cut it into our slices, which are about half-pound slices, and then we put them in a tray for sale. But we're not going to do that. What we're going to do is sample it, and my guess is from the size of this crowd, there will be crumbs only left by the time we get done. So are there any other questions? Everybody just wants fudge, right? Yeah. A day? It depends on the energy level, but we'll do anywhere from 2 or 3 batches of fudge, which would be like 50 to 75 pounds. To some days we'll do 12 or 15 batches. And believe me, at the end of that time, the faster the better. You know, I mean, you don't want. I don't never cut any corners as far as the quality goes, but people ask me on Fridays, you know, do I cook it at a slow temperature or whatever? And the answer to that is it depends on how tired we are. We usually will turn the thing on and turn it as fast as we can and cook it as fast as we can, because we get more turnarounds during the day. I couldn't hear your question.
Does cooking it fast have an effect on it?
Does cooking it fast have? In some forms of cooking it does. It doesn't with fudge, as long as you're careful and you keep it stirred and you don't let any hot spots occur and thereby burning it. But basically you're just trying to go from 0 to about 226 degrees without hurting it. And within reason, I'm sure if you put a jet engine under it, that wouldn't, you know, but for the applications that we have, the quicker we can get it up there and stirred, the quicker we can be on to the next batch. So why don't I give you all a sample. If there's no other questions, we've got some recipes that my wife can give to you over here. If you just come up to the stage, don't come up on the stage, but just come up in front of it. We'll go ahead and hand out some. And again, don't forget, we have fudge for sale in the craft pot. They'd love to see you all back there. Yep. Okay. I'll be right back. No, I'm not going anywhere. I'll just turn it like this.